A month ago, the defending world champions stood a game under 500. Since then, they've gone 17-11, and the mini resurgence has been led by Dwight Gooden, 4-1 since his return. And though the Mets still have their problems, Aguilera and Ojeda out, Darling without a victory in 2 months, they're confident enough now to utter statements like these. Statements certain to fan the flames when the Cards come calling it Shea on Monday. In the meantime, the Mets are in Philadelphia for today's Game of the Week.
The National Broadcasting Company, now in its 7th decade of bringing you baseball's memories. Baseball's milestones. Baseball's majesty. And baseball's magical moments. NBC Sports proudly presents the Major League Baseball Game of the Week. Today, from Veterans Stadium, it's the New York Mets versus the Philadelphia Phillies.
Sunny Saturday in Philadelphia. The Mets will send Terry Leach, the right-hander who's been a godsend for them with a record of 5-0, against Phillies left-hander Shane Rawley, their ace, at 8-4. Hi, everybody. Bob Costas with Tony Kubek. Last night, with Kevin Gross beating Sid Fernandez and Steve Bedrosian picking up yet another save, the Phillies beat the Mets 5-2. Still, the Phils are in last place in the East, percentage points behind the Pirates. The Mets are third in the division, 5.5 back of the Cardinals, with the Expos sandwiched in between, 4.5 behind. Now, one ongoing story with the Mets in 1987, the off-again, on-again relationship of Darryl Strawberry and his manager, Davey Johnson. The straw man is with Tony Kubek in the Met dugout.
All right, Bobby, thank you very much. Darryl, it has been written and written and written about your problems out of spring training over the last couple of weeks with your manager. Has that been resolved yet? Are you speaking to each other?
Oh, yes, it's been resolved, Tony. You hate to go through that kind of experience where you and your manager is not communicating because of all reasons. He's running the ball club and you're just a player and you have to go out and do your job. And I think it was overrated on the situation between me and Davey. I think we just had lack of communication, and I think we should have communicated better. If we had communicated better, I think the problem would have been solved a lot sooner.
Did he buy you an alarm clock?
No, he didn't buy me an alarm clock. I got that in spring training. It was kind of a joke, but hopefully I can wake up and get to day games. Day games are the hardest games to get to.
It looks like you and your former running mate out on the West Coast, Eric Davis, are going to be in the All-Star outfield together at Oakland in the middle of July. The balloting is very tricky this year for outfielders. A lot of good outfielders having good years. Do you feel that you should be where you are right now?
Well, I think so. I'm having an outstanding year, too, right along with the other outfielders. I think all the outfielders are having a super year, and it's just so hard, you know, to select which outfielder should start in the All-Star game. If I wasn't a starter, I still think I should be selected to the All-Star team.
Darryl, thanks to you. Good luck. We'll be back to Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia with the starting lineups right after this.
Here's the lineup Davey Johnson will send against Shane Rawley today. Mookie Wilson is in center field. Exciting rookie Keith Miller with both Tim Tuffle and Wally Backman hurt, seeing a lot of action at second base for the Mets. Lee Mazzilli, a spare part when he came over from Pittsburgh a year ago, now playing an increasingly important role with the Mets, the league's leading pinch hitter, and seeing a lot of action as a starter in the outfield and at first base. He's there today with Hernandez resting, day game after a night game. Ideal time to give Keith a rare day off, especially with a left-hander going. Carter, the cleanup man, Strawberry in right field, McReynolds in left, Hojo at third, Santana, newfound pop in his bat at shortstop, and Terry Leach, the sidearmer, is the pitcher.
Lee Elia behind Shane Rawley. He wants to get as many left-handed bats as he can against Leach, but he also wants to keep some defense for Rawley. So it's Gross, Bill Thompson, Glenn Wilson in right. Schmidt moves to third today. Aguayo, Juan Samuel, Bon Hayes from center field to first today. Darren Dalton catching. He bats from the left side, giving Parrish a rest against the sidearmer today.
And Rawley's first pitch to Mookie Wilson is fouled back. A lot of Met fans, as always, at Veterans Stadium, just about a 2-hour drive from the New York metropolitan area. So if the Mets do anything at all, you'll hear a few cheers. Rawley is definitely the ace of Lee Ilia's staff. His last time out, he beat the Cardinals in St. Louis. That was Tuesday. 4-1 the final that night. This one is bounced toward short, but Schmidt cuts in front of Aguayo and throws Mookie out. Schmidt has played some first base. They wanted to get Rick Shoesbat back in the lineup, so on occasion Mike moves over to first. Hayes from first to center field, and they'll sit Milt Thompson down and play Shue at third. But Mike, who has a trophy case full of Gold Gloves, is back at third today.
Perhaps the greatest third baseman all-round of all time.
When you put it all together, bat and glove. Here's Miller. Ball one to him. Schmidt has won 10 Gold Gloves at third. Only Brooks Robinson with 16 has more.
And he doesn't mind the shifting around to strengthen the defense or the offense for new manager Lee Elia.
2-0 to Miller. Rawley presented Elia with his first win as the Phillies manager when he beat the Cardinals the other day. Ended an 0-for-4 streak for Elia and a 6-game overall losing streak for the Phils. They had given John Felsky the pink slip in the middle of a long road trip. This one's popped out of play.
Lee Elia, born in Philadelphia. His father came over from the old countries, he says, Albania. He said, I wish Pops could be around to see me manage my first game in this stadium. He grew up watching baseball in Shibe Park when the Phillies and the Athletics played there years ago. He used to sneak in, pay 50 cents, and then dodge the cops, he said.
2-1 pitch. Breaking ball popped to the right side. Hayes flips the glasses down near the tarp. He has it.
Rawley, a different pitcher than he was a few years back when he was slider, fastball. Now he has a great straight change. Curveball, cuts the fastball inside once in a while, but basically he stays away from right-handed hitters. And I think he's one of those who was influenced greatly, Shane Rawley, by Tudor. When Tudor came over from Boston, then Pittsburgh, into the Cardinals, a lot of change of speed pitches away from the right-handers. That's the way Rawley's pitching now.
Ball one to Mazzilli. Speaking of Tudor, the most optimistic view on him has him returning sometime in August, but it might not be until September. Still, Whitey Herzog does expect to get some work out of him before the pennant race is over. And when he was first hurt in that collision, the freak accident when Barry Lyons ran into him in St. Louis, a lot of people thought he was gone for the year. And this one is blooped into shallow right. Samuel out, and he won't get it. Mazzilli with a 2-out single.
You might notice any ball hitting the right field area, hard or soft. Batter's really hot-footed down to first base because Glenn Wilson almost threw another run out at first base yesterday on a line drive to right field. Samuel battling a little hazy sky, the sun popping in and out right off the edge of his glove. The outfield with the rains overnight are a little slick. Some balls that are hit on the line will scoot in the gaps.
Here's Carter, who has more home runs in this park than any visiting player. He's put 23 over the boards at the vet, and here's a shot at number 24. Just off the top of the fence. Missed being a homer by about a foot. Mazzilli is being waved home. He'll score on the double by Carter. That ball got out there in the blink of an eye.
Lasers one over the head of Greg Gross, who for a second thought he might be able to get back in time, and when he got too close to the wall, remember, he primarily has served his career here as a pinch hitter, and then couldn't get back on the ball in time. Yet the cutoff man and Sam Perlazzo, the third base coach, just kept the man running. Mazzilli still has good speed.
Even though there were 2 out, and although Mazzilli runs very well, the ball was hit so hard that if Gross, as you say, Tony, had played the carom properly, he could have held Maz at third base.
Well, he thought he was going to get it, I believe, but it just kept rising off the bat of Gary Carter.
The RBI was Carter's 36th. Swing and a miss as he threw the fastball past Strawberry.
Talking to Ed Lopat, among many scouts in the ballpark today, And Eddie said he has seen Rawley his last 2 outings. And Rawley, the first couple of innings, have been coming out like he's feeling, not throwing very hard.
Softly to the left side. Schmidt and Aguayo. Schmidt wants it, and he makes the catch. But with 2 out, a fluke single by Mazzilli and a double really scorched by Carter give the Mets the early lead. Keith Miller getting the call at second base. Both Tim Tuffle and Wally Backman are here in Philadelphia, though each is on the disabled list. Backman can come off any day now. This is Backman working out before the game. But even should he be reactivated, Miller's going to see action in those key games against the Cardinals because Whitey's got 2 left-handers. Matthews and McGrain set to go in the second and third games of the series after he uses Cox in the opener.
And they've got some kids in the middle of the diamond down in the minor leagues. Elster's hitting about .330 at Tidewater. Greg Jeffries, a switch hitter at their AA team, is an outstanding looking prospect. In fact, Davey Johnson likes him as well as any middle infielder in the organization. Cashin and McElvain have done an outstanding job building this farm system.
Dalton playing in place of Parrish today. That's out of play, 1-1.
Lee Elia was saying another reason now Parrish hit a home run to right center field. He's been struggling with the bat. Lee Elia said, now that he looks like he's turning the corner for us, I didn't want Parrish to face a side-arming right-hander like Leach, who might goof him up again.
Looks like this one will make the seats. Over for a look, Howard Johnson, no play.
They've got another catcher, outfielder, first base, DH type. And John Russell, a strong right-hand hitter who a lot of teams coveted in spring training. And you keep getting the feeling as rosters get adjusted that the Phillies have a pretty good guy to send over to get some pitching help, if there is any in the American League. And Russell, he'd be an ideal player for the American League.
This one is popped almost straight back. No play for Carter. Well, Russell could be on the borderline when Jeff Stone comes off the disabled list. Fleet outfielder eligible to play on Wednesday.
Who's starting to play well and hit well.
DeShays and Downs going at it at Candlestick. Lanier's Astros leading Craig's Giants early. Still 1-2. The first 18 appearances this year by Terry Leach were all in relief. And then, at the height of their pitching problems, they had to call upon him to start a game against Fernando Valenzuela in L.A., and he beat Fernando, and since then has tacked on 4 more wins. Dalton reaches for this one and pops it back of second base. Santana wants it and has it.
See, Leach gave Davey Johnson and Mel Stalin, what, 6 or 7 innings against Fernando. He won the ball game, did 1 radio interview, left the ballpark, and the rest of the media came in bundles, and they said, where is he? And Leach had left. He didn't think he was supposed to stay around and get all that attention. So the headline the next day read something like, Mets lose another pitcher. He's quite a story. His last start against the Phillies was way back in 1982. Twice in spring training, he's been cut on the very last day by the Mets before they went north.
Glenn Wilson swings and misses, actually tipping it back into the glove of Carter. In fact, in that start against the Phils in '82, it was the last week of the year, and Leach pitched a 10-inning 1-hitter and won the game 1-0 inside. Show you how much they appreciated it. He spent all of '83 at Tidewater. He's been released twice by Atlanta. He's been with the Cubs. The Mets have cut him loose a couple of times. He just keeps resurfacing.
The hitting coach for the Phillies and first base coach, is finally getting to some of these Phillies hitters. Wilson is one. It's a team that basically, and there's Unser, that basically struck out a lot hitting the double plays. Now he's saying, guys, you got to hit the right field. That's what Wilson's trying to do off Leach with that sweeping breaking ball. Hit the ball the other way. Let's move some runs instead of only scoring runs when we hit home runs. Similar to what McNamara did with the Red Sox 2 years ago. Said, man, too many double plays, too many strikeouts. Let's move some base runners. Stay out of these situations. Create some runs. It's been gradual for Unser, but they're finally doing it for him.
Greg Gross, starting today, has just moved into a tie on the all-time pinch hit list with Jerry Lynch. 116 career pinch hits for Gross. Wilson chased back. Manny Mota, of course, is number 1 on that list. Manny, now a Dodger coach, 150 pinch hits for his career.
The thing that Gross did so well and does so well as a pinch hitter, he takes a lot of base on balls too. Manny's one of those guys, see the first pitch and hit it and put it in play and be aggressive. Gross will work a pitcher a little bit more.
Well, Gross has 74 career pinched walks in addition to all the hits. He's been really effective, and he's only in his mid-30s, so he's got a chance, if he stays healthy and hangs on, to pass Mota's record.
He may be going. It's one thing Lee Elias said, I want to create more of a running game, and Leach was thinking about him. Gross rarely strikes out. He hits the ball the opposite way. He has such good bat control, especially against a guy like Leach, who's not overpowered. He could turn the ball if he saw the second baseman covering. You may see a running situation right here. Good count to run out.
One of the criticisms against Felsky, and perhaps he was blamed for too much. They blamed him for everything except the 64 pennant loss. Wilson back easily, but one of the knocks on him was that he was too conservative. Seldom tried the squeeze, hit and run.
You're always striking out, though, and this team averages about 100 strikeouts per position. It's hard to start runners. You take yourself out.
There goes Wilson. The throw from Carter. They've got him by a mile.
There was a fastball that ran out of the strike zone. Gross tries to protect him. Not a pitch out, but Leach may have had an idea and did it on his own, and it's just no contest. Carter's had trouble throwing since the knee problem. He's had trouble coming out of the crowd. She's played with a lot of injuries again this year, but the big thing for him is he has played through them. Some guys wouldn't have, and that's to his credit. Gross couldn't protect him at all with any kind of swing or get the ball beneath the bat to keep Carter back.
So the 2-0 pitch with 2 out and nobody on, and it gets the outside corner. We're in the last half of the second. Mets with single runs in the first and second, lead at 2-1. Phillies got a run in the first on a Vaughn Hayes homer. Gross pokes it to the left side. Johnson with a nice play, and he throws him out. We'll be right back after these messages from your local station. Broadcast is presented by authority of Major League Baseball and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form without the express written consent of Major League Baseball. To the top of the third, Rawley works to Mookie Wilson, and that one's down and in for a ball. Mookie grounded to third his first time up. And here's a liner over the head of Schmidt. Wilson might try for 2. He's going to take the chance on Gross, and he's in there easily.
Mike Schmidt with Mookie's speed, playing about even with a bag in case he decided to drop a bunt down, and because he played so shallow, the ball fisted over his head by Mookie Wilson. I'll tell you, when they've got Backman in, when he's back, with Dykstra's playing, and even Mookie Wilson, they got a lot of guys who can really excite a team in that first or second slot. Mookie with that great speed. His throwing arm's back now. He may not be quite the outfielder in day baseball that Dykstra is.
Miller grounds one to second and moves the runner up. Samuel throws him out.
Isn't that beautiful? That's an awfully nice way to play this game. Just his third professional season, Miller up here, and he does something like that, and that's why Vern Hoscheit, one of the coaches, and Davey Johnson like him. He will do what it takes to advance the runner to get him in scoring position and make the defense play under a little more pressure. Philly's got a Keith Miller, too. Excuse me, Bob, but he's a switch hitter and he's in the minor leagues. Not the same one. There was no trade, folks.
The Mets have 5 hits off Rawley. Mazzilli got the first of them. A little flare into right field in the first inning, and then he rode home on the double off the left field wall from Gary Carter. Maz is hitting around 350. You know, Frank Cashin points to a deal involving Mazzilli. Not his reacquisition last year from Pittsburgh, but the deal which originally sent him away from New York as the finest move he's made as the Mets GM. That's out of play, too. Cashin had just come over to New York, begun running a ball club that really was struggling. And on April 1st, 1982, the Texas Rangers pulled an April Fool's joke on themselves. They traded Ron Darling and Walt Terrell to the Mets for Mazzilli. A shot to right, and it's in there in front of Wilson. Mookie comes home. It's 3-1 Mets. So the Mets give up Mazzilli, but they get Darling. Terrell gives them a couple of good years. Then they send him to Detroit, and that becomes Howard Johnson, and Mazzilli eventually comes back. So they've got Johnson, Darling, and Mazzilli all on their roster now, and Texas has Zip.
And anytime you can get a veteran player like that who can hit in pressure situations like Mazzilli, you get him. And that's why they went out and got Bill Elman also, who's already won a game for them with a base set. Guy can play a few positions, hit in pressure situations late.
As we were talking about that deal, the shot you were shown was of Ron Darling charting pitches in the Met dugout. He'll pitch tomorrow here.
He threw the ball very well with the exception of one inning, his last outing against the Cubs. He had a good fastball. Didn't appear to throw as many fork balls, which may have been getting him in trouble. But he threw the ball well.
There he is with Keith Hernandez.
They are rounding out that pitching staff again. Orozco's been throwing the ball well. McDowell of the bullpen. You know what Gooden's done. And, of course, Darling is on his way back, too, after, some problems with Davy Johnson. That's a running battle in the media also between Davy and Darling, as it is between Darryl and Davy. Sounds like a soap opera, doesn't it?
Here's the 1-1 to Carter. Mazzilli running. The throw from Dalton is away from Samuel. He has to reach back to get it, and Maz is in there easily.
Dalton was completely surprised. Rawley has learned to speed up his delivery. Pitching coach Claude Osteen, also a left-hander, of course, in his playing days, has gotten him gliding into home plate instead of the high leg kick. Still doesn't have a great move to first base, but he's quick home. But Dalton caught his cleats. Almost seemed he did fall over after he released the ball. So they run at will on this Phillies ball club. They did last year. They thought Parrish would be the solution, and they were 27 of 27 at one time off Parrish.
I'll tell you the stat that really backs that up. Vince Coleman, the league's premier base stealer, had 40 consecutive successful attempts over 2 years against the Phillies before they finally threw him out this year. There's a bouncer to short. Aguayo holds Mazzilli and takes care of Carter.
They just brought a new kid up from the minor leagues, Kenny Dowell, who will see some action at shortstop. Along with Aguayo, they feel his range is not good enough on the artificial surface. In the meantime, Jeltz has been sent down to the minor leagues. They want him to get his feet back on the ground, start having a little bit more of a good time, and start hitting the ball a little bit, and they'll bring him back up, I would think.
Strawberry fouled to Schmidt to end the first. Mets have a single run in each inning against Rawley. Fastball outside. Rawley was 10-4 before that stress fracture in his left shoulder last July. He tried to pitch through it before it was properly diagnosed, and he was 1-3 after that to finish the year at 11-7. He was on the disabled list from the end of July for the rest of the season. He'd gone 13-8 in '85, then 11-7 last year. So he's the best the Phillies have to offer right now. Breaking pitch high. That's Doug Baer, the former Cardinal, former Tiger, up from the minors and in the Philly bullpen. Swing and a miss, 2-2.
They tried to make some changes. Left-hander Jeff Calhoun, they got him out of the Houston organization, pitched well in the minor leagues. Bears come up with that fork ball. They're trying to strengthen their middle relief.
Here's another pop to the left side. Aguayo drifts behind Schmidt and makes the catch. Another single run thrown on the board by the Mets here in the third, and they up their advantage to 3-1 over Rawley. Dave Raymond's the fella inside the Philly Fanatics costume, becoming overly familiar with Coach Jim Davenport.
So now David Neal, our producer, and Harry Carl, our director, are doing X-rated stuff.
You know, speaking of mascots, the guy inside the Oriole bird costume in Baltimore a year ago, a man named Gary Cohen, is no longer the Oriole bird. You know what he's doing now? This is truly food for thought.
I can't wait.
He's an air traffic controller. It's the kind of thing that gives you a feeling of serenity as you lift off or arrive.
Louis Aguayo has shaved it all off. No mustache, no beard. Wants a new image. So this is my starting image. So I'm hitting a lot more home runs now. Maybe that's the reason. Luis Aguayo. He has been an outstanding utility player for this ball club. Can play the infield positions, pinch run for you.
sends one into right center field. Strawberry and Wilson in pursuit, and it's Darryl who gets there. Oakland with a 10-3 lead despite a homer from Reggie. 5:57. I guess the next guy ahead of him is Killebrew at 5:73, and then comes Frank Robinson. I don't know if Reggie can catch, Killer.
I'll tell you, Tony La Russa's team is playing some pretty good baseball. Kurt Young, the left-hander, having an outstanding year. Howell is back out of the bullpen, throwing the ball very hard.
Rawley had a 5-game hitting streak at one time this year. He's 10 for 38. That's 268.
The screenplay writer has already sent one copy down to the Miami Vice people. Included Mike Schmidt and his wife, and Glenn Wilson as characters. He's already had one of those read out in Hollywood by Harrison Ford's former wife, an Indiana Jones type. He said sounds like a good writer, great style, got a future.
Although they did reject the script. Mookie Wilson in shallow center makes the catch. The story Rawley had written had Glenn Wilson cast in the role of a rookie who was tempted by some sleazy types in Miami. And then Mike Schmidt was to play himself and come to the rescue.
But Shane did give Glenn a great name, Rex Daniels.
Samuel flied to Strawberry in right field in the first inning.
Well, that was not a mistake. 43 RBIs. That was tied with Mike Schmidt going in for the club's leadership. He is one of the most exciting players in the game. Last year, he was held back with a rib cage injury that he tried to play through, but he's in that crouch now, Bob. They think he's seeing the ball better and will strike out less and walk a little more, and hopefully keep going in that direction because he's still young and become an ideal type leadoff hitter.
Throughout his career, he's had staggering strikeout to walk ratios. You know, fan 150 times a year and get 30 walks. You can't lead off for anybody doing that, no matter how well you run. This year, he's improved the ratio. It's still not acceptable, but it's much better than it used to be.
Now, he struck out 61 in 69 games. The only Philly player not to miss a ball game this year. He's missed just 3 innings, but the walks are going up a little bit.
He's got 23 walks so far, which is not a lot, but it's a pace better than he's put on the board the first few years of his career. 3-1 now.
Started to smooth out his play at second base over the last year or so, and some people said he should be a center fielder because of his speed and throwing arm.
Back to Leach. Nice play. 1-3, and that'll do it. So a perfect inning for Leach and the Mets, and after 3, they lead at 3-1 as we bring you a look back at a special big moment. Bill Robinson played here for the Phillies, popular in this area, and a close friend of Bill Giles, and you may have seen it written that he had called Giles after John Felsky was fired. We asked Bill Robinson about that.
First of all, the only reason why I called Bill Giles was not to undermine or demeaning anything of Lee Elia. I called Bill Giles to let him know that I was interested in managing, and if there was something down the road in the next year or two, would he please consider my name? That's all it was all about.
McReynolds swings on the first pitch in the 4th, and a fly to right that Wilson should handle.
Bill Robinson will manage in Caracas, Venezuela, in winter baseball. Sam Perlazo, one of the Mets coaches, already managed the minor leagues, as has Bud Harrelson. So he wants that kind of experience to put on his reference sheet. So what have you done lately? Well, I managed winter baseball. Frank Robinson did that in Puerto Rico for years. Tommy Lasorda in the Dominican Republic for many, many years.
A strike to Howard Johnson. And with all the attention focused on the absence of black managers and front office personnel, sometimes a guy like Lee Elia can get a bad rap. The point is not that every new vacancy should be filled by a minority, only that someday and sometime soon, as Johnson rifles one into the left field corner, possible extra bases, but Gross fields it quickly. Hojo's in there anyway with a double.
mojo with that muscular body will surprise you an awful lot with his speed and quickness. He's stealing some bases this year. Getting a chance to play every day. Boy, Ted Williams would love this. This is part of his theory. Use about 85% of the hip action, and that will mean that 100% of your hands will be able to come through and get acceleration through the ball. And you can see that left hip, not really pivot out of the way, but the right hip coming in and really throwing a charge into the ball with those hands.
Rawley's now allowed 7 hits in 3 1/3. Here comes Milt Thompson to make the catch on Santana's drive for the second out. Just to complete the earlier thought, the point is not that every new vacancy must be filled by a minority, but only that, as time goes by in the next few years, some representative portion of the openings are filled by minorities. It amazes me how many letters to the editor there have been, and some letters have come to us at NBC from fans who say, hey, stop all this pressure. A person should be hired just based on their qualifications, and Leach lines it right to Schmidt. Well, if that had been the case, since Jackie Robinson broke the color line, why have only 3 blacks out of nearly 400 managerial changes since 1947 found their way in? If they had been hired on the basis of qualifications, there wouldn't have been a problem in the first place. McGuire swats a couple of homers today for Oakland. They hit the 13-run pool, 13-3 over the Indians, and now he's moved to within 1 of George Bell for the league leadership.
Bell had one yesterday against the Milwaukee Brewers. And Bell is moving up in the All-Star balloting. Was he 4th the last I looked? I guess he's still got Bo Jackson to get over the top of.
Here's Milt Thompson. Came over with Bedrosian from Atlanta last year in the Ozzie Virgil trade.
They like his speed. He can be erratic in the outfield. And on this artificial surface for defense and, of course, to generate some offense, Lee Elia wants to get a good look at Thompson, Stone when he gets off the DL.
Here's a shot toward the gap in right center. Extra bases for Thompson, who runs well. Mookie Wilson plays the carom cleanly. It's a leadoff double.
Pitchers that throw like Leach, and you can go back to Ted Abernathy and Dick Hyde, and now Mark Eichhorn with Toronto, Dan Quisenberry with Kansas City. Left-handers have nice times with them. That sweeping curveball that buckles the knees of right-handed hitter comes right into the power areas of the left-handed hitters. You see the delivery all the way. You don't get frightened off the plate, and that's just what Milt Thompson did. So you come to me, and he tattooed one to right center.
Hayes drilled one over the right field fence in the first. That's the only run off Leach so far. This will move the runner up. Miller near second base. Throws him out.
One of those times where that's not a very good play by your number 3 hitter. All Von Hayes was doing, he's a 3-hitter who drove in 100 runs last year, and he's just trying to give himself up to the right side when you're 2 runs down. That's one of those times you say, hey, have a good whack. Try for an extra base hit. Try and pull the ball, of course, as he did. But don't just weakly turn the top hand over and give yourself up when you're trailing by 2. I don't think that's very smart hitting, unless he got fooled completely and couldn't do anything else.
Schmidt, who has led the league in homers 7 times, tied for the league lead on another occasion. Hit 30 homers or more 12 times in his career. RBI spot for him as he takes high and outside.
He has evolved into a different kind of hitter the last few years. When he had that right elbow high and the bat pointed straight up, he was an outstanding low ball hitter. And he said before it used to be a sinker slider game or curveball, and I used to have to go down and get it. Now it's become a high fastball game and the fork ball. And I've leveled my bat out, did the high pitch better. So a lot more balls on the ground, but a lot of ground balls to the left side of the diamond to the shortstop.
Schmidt's contract is up at the end of this year. There'll be another interesting group of free agents.
Ooh, some beauties. I mean, there's some
Dale Murphy,
really big names.
Cal Ripken, Jack Morris again because he went to arbitration after failing to leave the Tigers. Jack Clark, Schmidt. Wonder if any of those names will appeal.
Well, it depends what Mr. Nicolau, the arbitrator, who's now gathering the evidence, commemorating the home run, 500th on April 18th of Mike Schmidt. See where Andre Dawson may be called to testify. His agent Dick Moss already has. Other prominent agents will be asked to be given their input into the arbitration hearings. Nobody seems to know what kind of power Roberts and Nicolau have. Is it absolute? Can they award damages? Could be interesting.
This is a 1-2 pitch from Leach to Schmidt. Got him. Big strikeout for Leach. Now Thompson at second, rather at third with 2 out.
And that's why Von Hayes, appearing to have given himself up too easily, a left-handed hitter where left-handers have fun with a guy like this. Remember, Von had a home run in the first inning. You leave it up to Schmidt, who will tell you that he doesn't like that sweeping sidearm curveball from a right-hander. It's a tough pitch to catch up with and hit.
Now it's up to Dalton, who popped to short his first time.
Gary Carter's, even though his knees may be a little bit weakened by all the surgery, but that glove hand hasn't slowed down, has it? He really popped out in a hurry to get that fastball.
Pitch. A ball and a strike to Dalton. 3 runs, 7 hits, no errors for the Mets. 1-3-0 for the Phillies. We're in the last half of the 4th. Second game of a 3-game weekend series, which concludes tomorrow with left-hander Don Carmen going against right-hander Ron Darling of the Mets.
You see in the minor leagues where former Phillies, now Yankee Charles Hudson opposed Joe Colley in a minor league game, and Charles Hudson got hit pretty hard, and Joe Colley didn't do quite that well either. Colley's the guy who pitched a no-hitter last year against the Angels for the White Sox, and he can't even throw the ball over the plate. Walked a lot his last outing.
Pitching 2-1. 3 balls and a strike to Dalton.
Terry Leach, when he pitched at Auburn, was told by a doctor when he threw over the top that someday, pal, you're going to have a bad shoulder problem. It's not very strong. Could be the dreaded rotator cuff surgery. Might ruin your career. So he dropped down from the side, and he has battled off and on to get back to the major leagues. More off than on.
Dalton sends it into left, and it's an RBI hit. Nice piece of hitting there as he just went with the pitch to bring Thompson home, and it's a 3-2 game.
So 3 of the 4 hits now are from the bats of left-handed hitters. Von Hayes home run, Milt Thompson double, and now Dalton with an RBI. The other hit by Glenn Wilson. He just protected the plate, resisted the temptation to take this sinker and try and pull it. Perhaps out of the strike zone, but he went with it nicely.
Now Wilson, who singled and then was caught stealing in the second.
For Dalton, after the knee surgery, Mazzilli will not even hold him on at first base. He's going to play behind him, because Wilson has been shooting the ball that way a lot more.
And he drops a bunt. Leach pounces on it. Play to first. Got him. And you're shaking your head, Tony.
Guy's got some power. I know it's a tough pitcher. My.
We'll be back after these messages from your local station. You know, Tony, we sort of got caught discussing the Bill Robinson situation because that inning went by so quickly. And part of my point was that Lee Elia may be getting a bad rap here simply because people are rightfully so anxious to see blacks and Latins get a chance. And Mookie Wilson swinging on the first one, pokes it into right field, and Glenn Wilson had an idea.
See, he's already thrown who? Bryn Smith out and Keith Moreland in the last 2 years at first base.
People are so anxious to see justice done that each individual situation might not be considered on its merits. In mid-season, Elia might have been the most logical choice to replace John Felsky. But the point is, that in the next 6, 7, 8 managerial changes, something's got to give. It's so long overdue.
The only thing the Reverend Jesse Jackson wants is that minorities get the same opportunity to fail as everyone else. That's all he wants. Give him the opportunity. Miller, a good hit and run man. Mookie Wilson with good speed. Dalton's got his work cut out right now, as does Rawley.
And Miller pokes one which Schmidt grabs.
Can't get it out of his glove.
And Miller is safe, and let's see how they'll score it.
Well, you can't give him an error. He couldn't go second. He couldn't get the ball of his webbing. Again, playing about even with the bag. Schmidt has had some leg problem. He said his knees won't make 2 more years. He's pounded hard on this turf the way he's played very hard. He comes down, can't get a handle on it. And Keith Miller, he doesn't have great speed, but he's about a 4 going down to first base, which is from the right side with his style, is very, very quick. He'll surprise you.
So the Mets now have 9 hits in 4 innings plus off Rawley. 3-2 New York. Mazzilli's 2 for 2. Singled and scored. Single to drive home a run. Ball 1.
You know, there's an interesting couple of statistics which tell some kind of story about Shane Rawley. In his career with the Phillies, in night baseball, games he's pitching at, he has 35 wins, 11 losses, 2.73 ERA. You know what he is in the day games? 7-13 ERA, 5.35. Explain that one. Does he not like to pitch in day ball, or do the hitters see him better in day baseball? And I mean, there's such a discrepancy there. I mean, you're talking ERA 2.5 runs higher in day baseball than at night. Why?
2-1 to Mazzilli. Maybe Elia ought to make sure he's tucked into bed by 8, 9 o'clock.
No, it has nothing to do with his lifestyle, but it's not a bad idea. With you play very few day games. If the pattern continues, don't pitch him in day baseball. I mean, these numbers don't lie.
Of course, Elia at this point, with the schedule backing up on him, is so pitching short, he's got to use Rawley here on 3 days rest. Carmen and Ruffin in the next 2 days, also on 3 days rest. And Hume for a spot start, so he has no choice, really. 2-2. 2 on, nobody out. And Mazzilli asked for time.
Waiting for the day where, like, a guy just about ready to start a slide into second base, and the shortstop or second baseman say, hold it up, and he snaps an ankle, waiting for that to happen to pitcher. Almost in the middle of the delivery, they say, hold it up. You just wait for an elbow or an ankle or something to pop.
Check swing, back to the mound. Rawley looks at third, goes to first, and got him there as Hayes stayed on the bag.
That's where this outstanding combination of power and speed on the bases helps Davy Johnson. You'll hear about Hernandez driving and running, Carter and McReynolds and Strawberry. But this speed right here by Mookie Wilson on the check swing off second base, Rawley had a thought. Dalton is saying, no way. You better go get one at first base. No force out because of Mookie Wilson's speed. They're going to intentionally walk. Carter now to get to the left-hander Strawberry. Strawberry hitting better off left-handers this year. He's got 9 home runs already this year off left-handers. And his home run pace this year, Bob, is way ahead of last season's. Darryl Strawberry's.
So Strawberry will bat here with the bases loaded and 1 out. Lee Elia.
You hate to do it in the home ballpark, but Davy Johnson knows how Elia feels. You're at home, you go a little bit longer with the schedule with your starting pitcher, but you can't go too long in front of the hometown fans, especially these Phillies fans. They're tough.
Rawley has gotten Strawberry to pop to the left side twice. Strike 1. Part of the Mets' difficulties this year, tell you after this pitch, which is high, stem from the inability of their big 4 hitters to come through consistently in the clutch. Carter, Hernandez, McReynolds, and Strawberry are combined 227 with runners in scoring position. Up and in, 2-1.
Just reading box scores from day to day, that appears to be getting a little bit better now as the Mets have been on a roll. Strawberry has moved up on the plate a little bit more this year. He feels he can reach the outside breaking ball better from the left-hander.
Swinging a long drive to center field. Back goes Thompson to the track for the catch. A run scores. Miller on to third. Carter holds at first. So it's 4-2.
So twice, Mike Schmidt has been in the middle of a run-scoring inning. And here's a guy with all the gold gloves you mentioned. The one-line drive bounced off his glove earlier, led to a run. Couldn't get the ball out of his glove on Keith Miller. Base hit as he beats us out. And you know, maybe Mike Schmidt doesn't need an excuse made for him as great as he's been. You play with a first base glove one day, which you did last night. You go get your third baseman glove and there's a different feel. It wouldn't seem like a big thing, but he's only played 4 games at first, but playing last night changed a little bit.
So now with the right-handed hitter in Kevin McReynolds coming up, Shane Rawley is finished. Doug Bear is coming on, and we're coming back. Doug Bear pitched part of last year with Oakland. He was briefly with the Pirates in '76, then the A's in '77, long stretch and an effective one with the Reds in the late '70s, early '80s, then on to the Cardinals, picked up a World Series ring with them in '82, moved to the Tigers, was on their championship team of '84, back to St. Louis very briefly in '85, Oakland again in '86, to the Phillies organization, pitched at Maine in AAA before being called up this week. To say he has been around puts it mildly. A lot of stickers on his bag.
He was going to quit, and he said this spring, he said, my wife said, come on, give it another shot. Play one more year, and he said, okay, I will. He still throws fairly hard. Always had a pretty good curveball, but he said, I'm starting to throw just on occasion as we look at the runners at the corners for the Mets. He said, I'm throwing on occasion a pitch that I messed around with Bruce Sutter years ago, that split-fingered fastball, especially the left-handed hitters.
First and third, 2 out. And 2-0 to McReynolds.
He is an outstanding breaking ball hitter. One of the reasons he's hitting in that 6th slot is Davey Johnson said that a hitter in that spot will get more curveballs than a 4th or 5th place hitter. And you figure the 7th hitter and 8th hitter after that, not really RBI guys. Although in this case, Johnson has become an RBI. He says, well, I want him to see breaking balls, and that's what he'll get. He's an outstanding curveball hitter.
Bear doesn't throw many curveballs, though. Fastball slider guy, and he's developed a little bit of a split finger in the last year or so. Here's a shot up the middle, and Aguayo can't get it. So an RBI hit for McReynolds. Carter stops at second. Keith Miller scores, and it's 5-2.
Don't know if Steve Jal's down in the minor leagues or the new kid, Ken Dow. He's not really a kid. He's been around a long time, but he's called up. Don't know if they would have it, but that's the knock on Luis Aguayo. Say 4 or 5 days, he gives you a good job, but when you put him out there every day on the turf, you can see he kind of shuffled after that ball. It is a fast turf. But you can see he didn't really run after it, and the ball gets through. And lack of range is the reason he hadn't been a regular player for this team. His value is off the bench.
Johnson singled and doubled against Rawley. Moves to the left side against Bear. Takes a strike. Earlier we told you about Mark McGwire. We shortchanged him. He hit 3 home runs for Oakland today at Cleveland.
So
not just
tied
2.
with George Bell. Or
no, he started with 22, and the 3 homers bring him to 25, 1 behind George Bell. Did he commit himself? Yes.
You know, I guess Mark McGwire is very happy when he went to USC. He was a pitcher. Rod Data wanted to keep him there, and then the hitting instructor said, you're going to be a first baseman hitter. Oakland 13, Cleveland 3. Boy, Pat Corral's team is really struggling.
0-2. 2 runs home here in the 5th. And a bouncing ball down to first. Hayes will put an end to it. But the Mets chase Rawley, do additional damage against Bear, and widen the gap to 5-2. We told you about Mark McGwire's home run exploits today for Oakland at Cleveland, the 3 homers to give him 25. All 3 times that's happened in the American League this year, the Indians have been witness to it. Corey Snyder and Joe Carter of the Tribe each had a 3-homer game. Now McGuire of Oakland does it against Cleveland. It's also happened 3 times in the National League. Greg Gross takes a strike from Leach in the last half of the 5th. Mike Schmidt did it for the Phillies at Montreal. Tim Wallach of the Expos did it earlier in the year, and Eric Davis of the Reds. Phils trail 5-2 as they bat in the last of the 5th. Poke toward left field. In comes McReynolds to record the putout. So up comes Aguayo, and in all the talk about the lively baseball, one of the examples that's always cited is Luis Aguayo. People say, hey, if Aguayo has 9 home runs, the ball must be more lively. Well, there are a lot of reasons to believe it is, but Aguayo is a poor example. He had 18 career home runs in just over 500 lifetime at-bats coming into this season. The only reason why people think he doesn't have much power is that he'll get, 150 at-bats in a season, hit 4 home runs, and those look like low totals. But per at-bat, he doesn't have bad power at all. And here's a shot foul.
Well, I think I saw another good example, maybe the best I've seen this year in Detroit on Wednesday night. Chet Lemon came up and checked the swing. And if the ball had missed his bat, it would not have been called a strike by the umpire, according to the replays I saw. But he happened to make contact, and George Ball went to the left field wall, 365, and caught it against the wall. And little binoculars down to both benches. They were rolling literally in the aisle. And they saw that ball fly to the warning track in a check swing.
They were literally rolling in the aisle?
Not them all, but there were about 6. Jack Morrison, Kirk Gibson. They were
wacky funsters. Here's a broken bat roller to the left side. Hojo, nice play.
It was too early in the ball game for Lee Elia with Bear, the scheduled 3-hitter. It's only the 5th inning to want to do a double switch. So John Russell will hit. Lee Elia didn't feel there was a chance for him to pull a double switch. Johnson, who's played some shortstop, but he's back where he is best suited, right at third base, still platooning with Santana when they throw a right-hander. Johnson will move to short, and Magadan will move to third base. A slugger, Russell, who strikes out a lot. He is caught. He's played a lot of positions. Wonder how long he'll be with his club. He's one of those guys, as one of the super scouts and executives. Paul Owens has been cross-checking in both leagues. They may have had some interest in a deal for a pitcher with Seattle. They've been scouting up in Toronto, and Russell has some interest up there with the Blue Jays, but they have Charlie Moore now. He perhaps had a lot more value in spring training than he does right now. Perhaps.
So Russell settles in with 2 out and nobody aboard in the last half of the 5th. Leach trying to up his record to 6-0 and working with a 5-2 lead. He's allowed the Phillies 4 hits. If you're Lee Elia and you're pitching short and you're hoping that your ace Rawley can give you another good performance today, you're really left shaking your head. He went just 4 2/3, working on 3 days rest. Gave up 9 hits. All 5 runs are charged to him, and all of them are earned.
His biggest job, Lee Elias, is going to be to straighten out this pitching staff. He knows it. Get some setup people for Bedrosian, but especially get those 4 starters, and they've got the potential to get them into the 7th inning, get the occasional complete game. And he feels the rest will come. He thinks they'll start scoring more runs, they'll catch the ball better.
2-2. He also knows there's little immediate help available on the farm. Mike Maddox has a sore arm. Fred Tolliver's been hurt. Marvin Freeman hasn't won a game at Maine.
7, isn't he?
All those people have pitched at least a little bit in the majors in the past. 2-2 pitch.
The kid they're high on is a kid named Newell, as I recall. I saw him in spring training, but they don't want to rush him too soon. They do not feel he's ready.
And you mentioned Joe Cowley. They got him from the White Sox, and the deal that sent Gary Reedus to Chicago. Cowley has had games this year in which he's walked 10, another where he walked 11, and one where, incredibly, he hit 4 batters in a row. Shades of Steve Blass when his control deserted him.
Or Doc Ellis when he said he's going to do it against the Reds.
Got him. So Leach strikes out the pinch hitter Russell. For Terry, it's his second strikeout. It's a 1-2-3 inning, and it brings us to another edition of Baseball Remembers. A little work on the infield before the 6th inning, and that young man is Ricky Allen, son of Richie or Dick Allen. Take your pick. Big league slugger of the 60s and 70s, and one of the most devastating right-handed hitters in the post-World War II era. He was a simply awesome hitter.
He was an outstanding base runner also. And he did a lot of things. Last year, Ken Hawk Harrelson brought him back to spring training with the White Sox, and he worked with some of the players in a lot of areas. His love is horses. Michael Jackson comes on. He has started 7 ball games. They feel he is perhaps best suited in this role. Setup man with that good breaking stuff. Got real good slider.
You saw his record of 1-6. Interestingly, that one victory was a game where he nearly pitched a no-hitter here against the Expos. He went to the 9th before Tim Raines led off with a double for the first hit. But even figuring that outstanding start in 7 starts, he's allowed 25 earned runs in 33 2/3. In relief, he's allowed just 6 earned runs in 21 innings, and he struck out 21 hitters in those 21 innings of relief work. So there's no doubt that he's better suited to work out of the bullpen.
And it's not the hits to innings pitch, because that's pretty good. 10 less than innings pitch. It's the hanging slider and pitching deep in the count, walking 37. When you throw breaking ball after breaking ball, don't have an overpowering fastball, pitch deep in the count, and you're going to hit up by the home run, which has happened to him quite a bit.
Curveball to Santana is lifted into center. Milt Thompson puts it away. Mets lead at 5-2 as we start the 6th.
Rafael's been on a pretty good streak. He is one who claims he is from San Pedro de Macorís, the shortstop factory, but really he's from La Romana. But I guess that little town's become so famous, everybody wants to be there if they play shortstop. Or be from there. Can't be there.
Leach, looking for his first hit of the season, takes a breaking ball for a strike. He struck out and lined out today. Oh, 2. Jackson pitched very well in Venezuela in winter ball. Had a strong spring in Clearwater for the Phillies, but then lost his touch as soon as they began playing for real. 3 pitches, goodbye Leach.
When he's got that breaking ball moving in those kinds of spots, even the good hitters have trouble with him.
Out at Candlestick, Houston continues to lead behind Jim DeShays. 3-1 now in the 5th. Here's Mookie, who's 2 for 3. Grounded out, doubled, and singled. Began the day hitting .310.
Houston just a game and a half behind Cincinnati. San Francisco has lost 7 of their last 10, so they're starting to settle a little bit.
For obvious reasons, Mike Jackson would prefer that we not call him Michael. Mookie Wilson will take it any way he can get it. It reads 3 for 4 in the box score.
Boy, is there a competition for that center field job going on between Mookie and Lenny Dykstra? It's nice to have 2 guys pushing each other for the job. Tuffle and Backman, of course, last year, second base, pushing each other, being platooned. A lot of depth on this Mets team. Mookie may be on the move. A breaking ball pitcher. He's lengthy, relatively young and inexperienced. Miller handles the bat well. He can take 2 strikes and it doesn't bother him, so Mookie's going to try and get in scoring position in a hurry.
Bluffs the go, and Miller takes a ball. Keith is 1 for 3.
That's where Davey Johnson is so good, picking pitches. Knows he's got a breaking ball pitcher with fast runner. Tougher pitch to throw on than the fastball that's up.
on his master lineup card. Davy Johnson has Bert Hoscheid as bullpen coach. Jack of all trades lists the release time of every pitcher from the first move to the catcher's glove. He knows who's fast, who's slow. He's got it all computerized.
Not going. Down low.
That's what happens. You get a young pitcher like this, and one of Lee Elia's projects, we told you earlier, is trying to get his pitchers to speed up their deliveries to give the catchers a chance. Dalton and Parrish. You speed up your delivery, you lose the strike zone. So it's kind of a catch-22 for a pitching staff.
Called strike, 2-1.
I'll say when they played the Cardinals that 3-game series, the Phillies, first 2 ball games, the Cardinals did not have a stolen base with Lee Elia's new policy. It didn't help them in the 1-loss column, but there weren't steals in the first 2 games by the Cardinals speedsters.
Perfect pitch to go on, and there he does go. And here's the throw from Dalton. Good throw, but he's in there. He had a good pitch to throw on. It was up high. He's able to spring out of the crouch quickly. He gets off a strong throw, but the jump was so good for Mookie Wilson that he's in there ahead of Samuel's tag.
Mookie's 11th stolen base. Good percentages for the Mets. They're now 60 steals and 24 caught stealing. They're going to switch signs now. Another one of the reasons games have become lengthier. Aside from hitters stepping out, pitchers walking around the mounds, a lot of trips by pitching coaches and managers. The satellite dish where they steal signs, tape games.
Keith Miller trying to make the most of this first major league opportunity. He was at .351 in limited duty since being called up coming into today's game. And now he's 1 for 3 with a walk. And look at him scamper down to first base, almost Pete Rose style.
You know, Davy Johnson was speculating. He said, this may be a few years down the road, or it may not come about, he said, but I can see right now with the depth in our minor league system, a Keith Miller at third, a Dave Magadan, the fine left hitter, at first, Greg Jeffries at second, and Kevin Elster at short. He said, may not happen, he said, but that's a nice way to look at an inner defense. That kind of potential in the minor leagues.
Mazzilli, rejuvenated since his return to New York, takes a ball. Wilson at second. Miller at first. 2 out, top of the 6th, 5-2 New York. And that's fouled out of play.
You know, the last few stops in the trade route that Mazzilli has made with Pittsburgh and some of the others, when he was DHing in the American League, they only used him from the left side. Good base on ball, still ran. Davy Johnson today, with Hernandez being set out, he played him batting right-handed. He gets 2 base hits, and that's supposed to be his weak side. He's hitting a lot better because you get more playing time that way.
2-1. Mazzilli had very important pinch base hits. Lost in the shuffle a little bit with all the other things that went on in the 6th and 7th games of the World Series. Very big hits to help the Mets come back in each game against the Red Sox.
What he does so well, aside from those kinds of base hits, his on-base average is over 400 again this year. He'll take the base on balls, and he really works a pitcher. New pitcher comes in, if he goes into pinch hit, even if he doesn't get a hit, he usually makes him throw a lot of pitches so the guy on deck and the rest of the bench see what that pitcher is throwing, like Boggs does for the Red Sox.
And the 3-1 pitch is in there. Mazzilli thought he had the walk. Well, now Wilson and Miller will take off. And you can bet with this kind of speed on the lines, an extra base hit will score 2. Mazzilli's 2 for 3. There they go. And he got a little piece of it.
Michael Jackson just keeps on, or Mike Jackson keeps sticking with the breaking ball. 3-1 slider, 3-2, took a little off, just caught the edge of the bat.
Well, there is one similarity between Mike and Michael Jackson.
They each wear 1 glove.
Thank you.
Oh,
I was guessing. I thought you had something new.
No, my philosophy is the old lines are the best.
Bob Hope loves you.
It worked in vaudeville, pal. There they go once more.
Whoa.
And here's a shot, which if it stays fair, is long gone. And a foul ball that crashes against the auxiliary scoreboard.
And that's why he doesn't throw his fastball more often. I believe that's what that was, or a little bit harder slider. Mazzilli in that little crouch, and there's the fastball. Inside half of the plate, about belt high, and he hooked it off the scoreboard a little too much.
Runners take off again, and that is ball 4 to load him up. Time to head for New York. An update from Marv Albert.
All right, Bob, in San Francisco, Kevin Bass of Houston has been on fire in the 5th. Bass putting one out with a man on, his 8th of the season. 3 hits, 4 RBIs for Bass with a double, triple, and a home run. Astros lead the Giants 6-1. Back to Bob and Tony.
Okay, Marvin, here at the vet, the Mets are trying to bust this one wide open against Elias Phillies. Carter has doubled, grounded out, and been walked intentionally. He has 10 lifetime grand slams. Wilson at third, Miller at second, Mazzilli at first. Hayes tried to sneak in behind Mazzilli, who had an enormous lead at first base, and Dalton bluffs a throw over there.
Bill Robinson keeping him alert. That's his job. Mazzilli wanting to get a good jump in case there's a little weak ground ball. He might beat a force out. Claude Osteen comes out.
You faced Osteen when he pitched for the Washington Senators early in his career. What kind of pitcher was it?
Threw very hard, always had a good curveball. At that time, I handled him easily.
Sure. Left-handed batter as you were against a tough lefty like him.
I hit him pretty well. He always mentioned every time I see him. I don't know why, but I did. Threw very hard. He was on some pretty good staffs with the Dodgers, wasn't he?
He went over to the Dodgers, and in '65 really contributed to their world championship, not only with his good pitching during the regular season, but that year, Drysdale and Koufax lost the first 2 games of the series at Minnesota. The Twins went to L.A. up 2-0, and Osteen beat Camilo Pascual in the 3rd game of the series to get the Dodgers back on track, and eventually they won it in 7. Here comes a 1-0 pitch to Carter with the bases loaded.
Ooh, that's why Jackson doesn't like to throw his fastball, but with a guy like Carter up, who's an outstanding guess hitter like a lot of catchers are, he may have felt he's looking breaking ball, tried to sneak a fastball by him, and he looked like he was right on it. Maybe a little late. Carter looks like he's moved off the plate just a little bit from last year and closed his stance somewhat. He is a great hands hitter. He doesn't use a whole lot of body. Boy, his swing is so short. Sometimes he even hardly follows through. It's just like about 8-10 inches right through the ball, and that's it. Saw it earlier. That ball hit off the left field fence.
Jackson has his sign, and here comes the 1-1 pitch. 2-1 with 2 out and nobody on in this inning. Wilson singled to center, his 3rd hit in 4 tries. He stole second base. Keith Miller walked. Lee Mazzilli did the same. Now they're loaded for Carter.
He doesn't get him. We'll probably see a left-hander to Strawberry.
Fouled out of play. Straw man next.
And Elia's got the left-hander going in his bullpen. The only one he's got available out of the pen. Jeff Calhoun way in the background in the right field corner.
The 2-2 pitch. Breaking ball is popped weakly and out of play.
Bob, spending a lot of time in New York, and of course you saw the Mets as I did in spring training a lot. You probably more than me. You know, all the rah-rah after the World's Championship, and then the injuries and the good and thing. They're starting to play good ball, but does it seem to you, and this is an attitude as you're hanging around batting cages, that their passion to win is back again? I mean, to repeat, all of a sudden, guys just seem to be in the ball game more to me.
More than earlier in the year, for sure, but they haven't recaptured the chemistry of '86. Here's a breaking ball, popped almost straight up. Schmidt wants it, and has it. They leave 3, and the Phillies hang in there, at least reasonably close, trailing 5-2 as they come up in the 6th. Top of the order for the Phils as they try and get back into this one in the last half of the 6th. Samuel, Thompson, and Hayes against Terry Leach.
He just keeps amazing Mel Stottlemyre, the way he just keeps getting hitters out.
Let's take a look at what's coming up on the 4th of July, next Saturday on NBC. The Rangers and the Yankees with Vin Scully and Joe Garagiola from Yankee Stadium. What a game there last night. And we'll be in Atlanta with the Cards and Braves. The pregame show next week includes an in-depth interview. Marv Albert Q&Aing it with Mickey Mantle. And Mickey will provide more stunning insights about his career, such as the story concerning the dialogue between Mick and Norm Cash, which he revealed to Marv Albert on today's pregame show, which I'm sure thrilled Merlin Mantle, watching at home in Dallas, no end. Here's Samuel.
I thought that was a clip from the David Letterman show. Other than Marv's.
Here's Mick with a lot of exposure this week. Letterman earlier in the week, Marv on Saturday. In-depth interview next week with Marv. How about last night at the stadium? Hello, Las Vegas. Listen, I got a 9-0 lead in the 2nd with Roger Clemens on the mound. What kind of odds will you give me that I hold it? Well, the Red Sox didn't. Here's a chopper to the left side. Howard Johnson throws Samuel out.
You can't take much time with him, can you? Howard Johnson saying, come down in a hurry, ball. And Sammy's running. He had 11 runs in the 3rd, and ironically, that was not the Yankees' biggest inning of the season. They scored 12 in one inning against Kansas City back in April.
And the Red Sox came back and tied the game 11-11. The Yankees won in extra innings 12-11. And what kind of odds could you get that in a 12-11 game, Wade Boggs would not get a hit? 0 for 3 with 3 walks, 2 of them intentional. So his hitting streak ends at 25. Keith Miller on the high hop. And that's all for Milt Thompson.
Leach now just trying to get ahead with a sinker ball. Make the Phillies put the ball in play and let his defense do the work. Davey Johnson's bullpen now for closing out games is better. Got the kid Ennis down there. Don't know when Aguilera will be back. But McDowell is down there. He has been good the last 8 or 9 ball games. Orozco's pitched well. You know, they're even talking to Davey. He was saying that there is a chance, if they stay in the pennant race, that Ojeda could come back for the end of the season. And he said if we won't push him after he had the ulnar nerve rerouted and some other damage taken care of in his elbow. He said, but if we're out of it, we're not going to push him. We'll let him get his work in the instructional league after the season. So I would think that Davey Johnson has had to manage more the first 3 months of this season than he had to manage all last year, including the playoffs and the World Series. He's done a marvelous job. We're working on a lot of problems and injuries.
0-2 pitch to Hayes, and he won't bite. You know, the Mets talk about their difficulties, and they have been many. Ojeda and Aguilera and Darling struggling and Gooden with the drug rehab and Strawberry. But the Cardinals have had troubles of their own. Question. And have managed to play through them. This is sliced down the left field line and out of play.
It's an amazing tribute to Whitey again, too.
And so when Howard Johnson chides the Cardinals a little bit by saying, look, they could have put the nail in the coffin, consider St. Louis's situation. They've been without Tudor. McGrain just came off the DL. Matthews, who's pitching very well now, young left-hander, had to go to Louisville to straighten himself out for a while. Worrell had a very slow start, though he's blowing people away out of the bullpen now. Jim Lindemann on the DL. Tony Pena on the DL. So adversity has not been a stranger to the Cardinals either. That's foul, too.
And how would you like to be Gene Michael without Sean Dunston, who's been playing the heck out of shortstop? Now he's got a pin in one of his fingers from a head-first slide, and Ryan Sandberg out. The 2 kids, Noche and Brumley, have done a good job. They beat Darling the other day.
Here's Hojo's quote, which the Cardinals can tack up on the clubhouse wall when they arrive at Shea. On the other side, the Mets could put the words of Jack Clark, who, when asked about the New York Ball Club earlier this year, said, are you kidding? Us afraid of them? We don't fear any team, said Clark, though every pitcher in the league fears him. He hit one over the Stadium Club in St. Louis earlier this year, and then this week against the Phillies, he pounded one off the scoreboard in left center field at Busch Stadium, behind the bleachers. Bounce down to Mazzilli. A race to the bag, and Maz wins it. So for the second straight inning, Leach takes care of the Phillies, 3 up, 3 down, and we'll be right back after these messages from your local station. As Mike Jackson completes his warm-ups, again, we remind you we'll select the NBC Miller Lite Player of the Game at the conclusion of this contest. Mookie Wilson's had a big day. Lee Mazzilli, too.
Terry Leach has got a leg up on that thing in my book. He, just from the residue of helping save this staff the most of this year, he's got some votes for me. But I don't want to influence your vote because there's a ways to go yet. You gullible little play-by-play guy.
You know, there's a mounting body of evidence that you've completely lost control. I mean, someone just flipped the linchpin on you, and you're just an unguided missile at the moment, aren't you?
The pause here in the action, as Bob Costas would say, and his usual play-by-play levity, is because of that ball on the field.
Strawberry has popped out twice, then got credit for a sacrifice fly as he sent Milt Thompson to the warning track in dead center back in the 5th, an inning in which the Mets scored twice. They got single runs in the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, and 2 in the 5th.
The kind of guy you would expect the Darryl Strawberry to have great swings at. You know, the thing you like about Darryl Strawberry, and they say, when's this guy going to mature? You forget he's still relatively young. Last year, he struck out 141 times, walked 72. This year, he's got a chance to walk over 100. So, yeah, and you don't mind that. Like Mickey used to strike out over 100, but he'd walk 120 times a year. Which, you know, if that ratio is in balance, you still got a high on-base average. And he's a slugger with a high slugging percentage, an average hitter. So you see a trend in Darryl Strawberry gradually. He's evolving into being a great offensive force.
3-1. Last year, he was the easiest to fan in the National League. Had a total of 141 whiffs. And he struck out something like once every 3.5 times at bat. Full count now.
Well, he hit his 20th home run, which is what he's got now on June 18th. His 20th home run last year didn't come till September 8th, his 115th game. He's drawn 33 walks in his last 37 ball games, too.
Struck him out.
Not that way, though. Went out of his strike zone, almost in his eyes.
And he knows that he chased a pitch up the ladder. Watch it once more.
It is one of those swings where it's a weak swing because he said his mind told him to hold up, but didn't register quickly enough with the hands. He swung through weakly.
Mick Reynolds, fastball for a strike. He's 2 for 3, a pair of singles. Mets hoping to win this one. And then look toward Montreal, where tonight Bob Force, with a record of 5-3, goes for St. Louis against Bryn Smith, who's 5-2 for the Expos. If Montreal wins that, they'd move to within 3.5, and Buck Rogers would stake a claim along with Whitey Herzog for Manager of the Year honors, at least at this early stage. They lose Dawson. They're without Brooks and Raines for about a month each. Breaking ball popped to the right side. Let's see if Hayes has room. Nope.
Tim Wallach's having an outstanding year. Mitch Webster, the switch hitter out of the Toronto organization, is having a good year.
But they've had problems with Yeomans, who's now on the DL, and he was their best pitcher a year ago. They sent Jeff Reardon, their bullpen closer, away, and of course Heaton has come on and been a revelation.
Smith has come back after they thought he wouldn't pitch after the arm surgery. They want to play for Buck Rogers, and I think that's very important. Go out hurt as Hubie Brooks did the other day.
And he fans McReynolds. So he's gotten Strawberry and McReynolds back-to-back to start the 7th. And before Howard Johnson hits, let's go to Marv Albert.
All right, Bob, in San Francisco, the Giants losing more than the ball game on this play. Candy Maldonado caught his finger. Watch his right hand. Candy forced to leave the game with a fractured ring finger. Severe blow to the Giants. Maldonado hitting .333 among the National League leaders. Let's get back to Bob and Tony.
4th in the league, Marv, behind Tony Gwynn, who's now at .378. Breaking ball low to Howard Johnson. Tim Raines, who's at 369. He's the defending batting champion. Andre Galarraga of Montreal is at 343, and then Maldonado 333 prior to his injury today. Here's a fastball ripped foul.
You know, you see this National League, and the American League has been that way for a while, but the National League is getting more left-handed pitchers in the starting rotation. Schmidt said that's a big difference he has noted. You see 6 of the top 10 in the National League are right-handed hitters. 2 of them are switch hitters. And Mike Schmidt believes it's because of more and more starters from the left side coming into this league. He said at one time it was a predominantly right-handed pitching and hitting league.
1-2 to Hojo. Jackson, the third pitcher the Phils have used today. Rawley started, didn't have it. Bear pitched briefly. Then he was hit 4, and on came Jackson. Mike had a shaky 6th inning. He loaded the bases before getting out of it. He struck out the first 2 of this inning, and he plunks Howard Johnson.
Right in the elbow or in the ribs?
In the ribs.
Just below the ribs. And hopefully it's just in the meaty part and not in the bone area. 2-strike pitch, and Jackson is the kind of pitcher, if he feels on you're sitting on your breaking ball, he's going to move you off the plate. And also you can see by this shot, and it was a tough pitch to get out of the way because it's almost behind him, but throwing from the sun to the shadow at this time of day, a little bit more difficult for Hojo to see. But Jackson was trying to move him off the plate. He's still walking around down at first base. Steve Garland, the trainer, got out there in a hurry. Remember, this is 0-2.
So Santana gets a chance. He's 0 for 3. And that moves him away. And Dalton wants to chat.
Well, I don't think it's any secret that after last year and all the curtain calls for the Mets fans and all the stuff that was thrown around that the Mets are arrogant and some of the statements we've shown today, and some thought that Mets pitchers last year when they're riding the wave, throwing too much to other hitters 0-2, and there's still a residue among clubs in the other around the league. They're going to get their pound of flesh. That may have been part of it. It happened to belong to Howard.
Well, Schmidt, an eloquent spokesman on any number of baseball issues, was one of those who spoke up during spring training. He said if they get it again this year, they're really going to earn it, because all 162 times they go out there, regardless of the opponent, the other team is truly going to be up for them. Well, it's truly wanting not only to beat them, but to rub their nose in it a little bit.
Well, it certainly hadn't worked for Mike Schmidt and the Phillies, because they were 0-6 against the Mets going into last night, where they finally won one this season. Ball. First base umpire saw it. Dana DeMuth. A couple others probably did at the same time. Jackson knew it. Won't even argue it. So runner goes to scoring position. Howard Johnson. I think he may have broken his hands. I'm not sure. They'll bring Claude Osteen out. Here it is. He broke his hands before he stepped off. Or has he done it yet? Yep, he took the hand out of the glove. He did it twice. He did it once practicing before the ball was in play, and then he did it again, broke his hands, and then stepped off instead of vice versa. So that'll advance Howard Johnson. He's thrown a lot of pitches already, hasn't he? He hasn't been in that long.
He's thrown 41 pitches in less than 2 innings of work.
Opposed to Leach last inning, and 6th inning, 3 ground ball innings, he threw just 10 pitches. The record pace of balks called continues. Most of them have been called, and pitchers not stopping. There was a legitimate one. Not arguable at all.
And some umpiring crews are more prone to call them than others. For example, the crew headed by Lee Wire includes Ed Montague and a couple others. They've called a disproportionate number of the balks in the National League this year. Doesn't mean they're wrong. It just means they interpret it differently than some other umpires do. Here's one lofted down the left field line. Gross sprints over, but it's in the seats.
Well, I think Whitey Herzog, and he's been trying to make this point for several years with the running game that he has, that the rule does say you've got to stop. They used to interpret that stop by a pitcher from the stretch as being, some would say, a change of direction. That's got to be a stop. Now the rule is being enforced the way I think it was intended to be enforced. You got to come to a perceptible stop. Change of direction isn't enough. And that gives the Colemans and the rest a little bit more leeway to run.
In on Santana's fist for the weak pop, and it's Aguayo at short who puts it away. No runs, no hits, a man is left. 7th inning stretch time for the Phillies, and they've got Schmidt, Dalton, and Wilson ready. Here's another edition of 7th inning stretch. Under the heading, what a difference a year makes. June 27th of '86, on the way to the World Championship. Gooden had won 8. He's pitched very well, of course, since coming back this year. Now we see some more significant differences. Ojeda had won 8. He would win 18. Now he's 2-4 and done for the season on the disabled list with the injured elbow. Darling was 8-2 on this date a year ago. This year he hasn't won since April 22nd, though he pitched very well in defeat last time out against the Cubs. Fernandez about the same, 9-2 a year ago. After losing last night here, 9-4. And Aguilera, well, who knows when he'll pitch again. He didn't have a great record in '86, but he was an important man for them early this year, and now he's got elbow difficulties, and who knows when he'll work again.
Well, so they've had with serious injuries. Ojeda out, McDowell out, Aguilera still out. David Cone, who was Frank Cashman and Davey Johnson's ace in the hole, he's hurt.
Leach starts Schmidt with a strike, and so names like Cone and Mitchell and Innes and Edens and Leach all of a sudden have shown up from time to time in the Met rotation. Put it another way, the big three a year ago, Darling, Gooden, and Ojeda, on this date were 24-7, and they had worked 296 innings between them. This year, those three are 8-10 combined, and this is just as important, the innings pitched. They've worked only 165 innings, the three of them combined. Therefore, Johnson, there's the doctor, he'll work on Tuesday against the Cardinals, and Greg Matthews at Shea. Johnson and Frank Cashin have had to dip into the minor leagues and come up with second-line pitchers to take up the slack and work those innings.
And that's why you get right back to the guy with 26 on his back to show you his importance. 5 wins, no losses, to kind of hold the staff together, and he's doing it again today. Leach has now retired 7 Phillies in a row, and 5 of them have been by ground balls. The sinker ball's really working.
3-1 to Schmidt, leading off in the 7th, with the Phils down by 3.
Yeah, looking at Schmidt last night, he said, I want to show you a bat. He said, on this last road trip, I got one of Jack Clark's bat. He said, I ought to try and use it. He said, how can anybody use this bat, especially a slugger like that? 32 inches long, and it weighed about 31 ounces. It was as skinny as a rail.
Here's a shot. Hojo can't handle it. Should be scored an error. It was hit hard, but it was playable.
That's the new Mike Schmidt, starting his stroke down on the ball, high in the strike zone, where he's not lofting the ball, swinging through high pitches when he had the uppercut. I don't think it hit a seam. Hojo maybe thought it was going to stay down, found it up on the artificial surface. It's a lot easier going from a dirt and grass field artificial surface than vice versa. From the speedy turf to dirt and grass, where the rhythm of your feeling changes so much.
Score at E5. Here's Dalton. Outside, ball 1. So the Phillies still have but 4 hits off Leach.
And last year, Davey Johnson knew, alluding to what you said a while ago, every time the starter went out there, he's going to get a decent outing. That's the way the staff was, not this year with all the injuries.
Dalton has 1 of those 4 hits, a single in the 4th inning. This one is hit softly into left, and McReynolds is right there, 1 out.
That's one thing Leach does well when he is pitching left-handers properly, like he wants to. Won't let you put the ball in play and pull it. There was a situation right there with Mazzilli holding Schmidt on. Don't know why with the left-handed hitter up the lead they've got, but he was, where he would not allow Dalton to hit the ball through that right side in the hole and create a 1st and 3rd. He made him go the opposite way as weak field.
Glenn Wilson singled in the second, tried to bunt for a hit and was thrown out to end the fourth.
Some of those things you wonder about. Von Hayes, the ground ball when they're down, playing for 1 run. 2 outs, man on. Wilson tried to bunt, getting thrown out. Sometimes you play for 1, you get it, and sometimes you don't get it at all. You end up losing by a few.
Ball 1.
To me, that's a defensive style of baseball, something that John Felsky has tried to, or another, Lee Mazzilli has tried to eliminate from this.
Left-hander is Randy Myers, right-hander is Roger McDowell. 2-0.
You know, I believe John Felsky's going to get a chance to manage the big leagues again. He's a well-organized guy. I think he got caught up in the media pressures here. Right now, as we look at Greg Gross on deck, Felsky is out in the Pacific Northwest with some buddies he managed out in Vancouver and British Columbia. He's out there on a fishing trip. And I think he's just gathering his mind and deciding what he's going to do.
Here's one squib towards second. Miller makes a play to second for the force on Schmidt. And that's the second out.
Glenn Wilson trying to stay out of a double play, hit it to the right side, and Gary Carter and Leach set him up perfectly. Just ran the fastball and wouldn't give him the breaking ball away or the sinker away where he could shoot it to the right side. They jammed him up and in, and they know, and the advanced scouting reports say he's hitting the ball to right field more, and they wouldn't let him do it. He did it, but he almost knocked his fists off.
Gross 0 for 2 today. 2 gone in the last half of the 7th.
And for a guy like Leach, I don't think you can have any kind of approximation what kind of job he has to get from his catcher. With Gary Carter back there setting up hitters and watching them move in and out and change their stances, he is so valuable to a guy like Leach.
Leach couldn't get it, but Miller is there. And a little flip to Santana. You might have noticed some of the difficulties AstroTurf can present on what looked like a routine grounder. That hit right at the edge of the sliding pan. Tricky hop for Miller, but he handled it. There was a bit of afternoon action elsewhere in the major leagues today. A 3-home run onslaught by Mark McGwire of the A's. He now has 25 for the season. 1 behind George Bell for the American League lead. Oakland wins that one 13-3. Joaquin Andujar, the winner. He's back off the DL. He beat Brent Schramm. Houston with the lead at Candlestick 6-2 in the 6th. And California an early lead at Comiskey. Leach has struck out twice and lined to third. And let's see how they rule this one. It is a strike. You could see by that swing why he's hitless in 14 at-bats so far this year.
Hey, he lined out the third base in the 4th.
Yeah, he did hit that one pretty well. He struck out his other 2 times. Last time he struck out on 3 pitches against Jackson, and the same here.
He hadn't hit too well today again, but he is pitching. I'll tell you, it's amazing, Bob, when you look at the numbers of just pitches, whatever it means, for the 7 innings he's pitched. He has not thrown more than 14 pitches. I'm talking about Terry Leach in any inning so far today. He's been really kept it to a minimum of pitches. The Phillies know he's around the strike zone. They're swinging, putting the ball in play.
And Leach can afford to laugh a little bit about his futility at the plate.
Probably talking to Mel Stottlemyre's pitching coach, who was a pretty good hitter in his day as a pitcher.
Mookie Wilson, who's 3 for 4, fouls this one off. I once saw Mel Stottlemyre in 1965 at the old Yankee Stadium against the Red Sox hit an inside the park grand slam home run.
Just saw, does that sound familiar? Did we just see that last week in the major leagues?
But not by a pitcher.
No, I know it. I just, I didn't say that.
Making the distinction.
It's unusual by anyone. Mal Stottlemyre, his son Todd, pitching at Syracuse AAA ball. Has been inconsistent of the year, but he's going to be in the big leagues, not this year, next year. Mal Jr., pitching in Double-A ball in the Houston chain. He pitched yesterday. Mel was trying to get a report. He couldn't get a score on how his kid did. He said, I'll find out after the game when I call him today. He said, if he pitches well, Mel Jr., he'll call me. If he doesn't pitch so well, I'll have to get in touch with him.
You know, talking about pitchers hitting exploits, some of the best hitting pitchers in the National League have moved over to the American League. And they're weeping about the fact that they can't pick up the bat. Boy, Mookie was tied up on that swing. Jackson now has struck out 4 in the last 2 innings alone, and 5 since he came in.
Obviously, Terry Leach's hitting style is catching. You should never bat too closely in the order to Terry Leach.
Leach not to be confused with guys like Rick Rhoden, Dan Schatzeder, former Philly, who's now at the Twins, Walt Terrell, former Met, who's now at the Tigers. All those guys could really hit. They were a threat in that 9th spot in the order, and now they're over in a DH league. 1-0 pitch to Miller. 2-0. In fact, I talked to Rhoden last week, and I asked him with the 24-man roster if Lou Piniella has him taking BP every day just in case he wants to use him as a pinch hitter. He says, no, they won't even let me pick up a bat for fear of injury. And if you think that doesn't hurt, when you can hit as well as Rhoden, he'd love to get in that batting cage.
That has happened at World Series times where pitchers don't hit all year long. In fact, that happened to Storm Davis years ago when he was with Baltimore. Batting practice near the end of the season when they're getting ready for the World Series, and he strained his back, I believe, and he wasn't quite as effective. This last year, Tim Lowler, who's now in the minor leagues, took batting practice almost every day for the Boston Red Sox.
3-1 to Miller.
He's the kind of player that grows on you, doesn't he? Keith Miller runs well, fields his position well, tough on the double play with that good, strong lower body.
And here's a smash into left. It'll drop for a hit.
Look at him go. He may not stop at first, Bobby.
He's thinking about it, and here he goes. In there. They know that Gross in left doesn't have an excellent arm.
He got to the ball in a hurry, but I'll guarantee you before Keith Miller hit that ball, he knew that Greg Gross was a left-handed thrower, and any ball hit in the corner, smart players think these things out before it happens. Just like Pete Rose has done and made all his doubles. He didn't need help from Bill Robinson, the first base coach. He knew that Gross would catch the ball, have to pirouette all the way around. It would cost him a lot of time, maybe 3-4 steps, and Miller breezed into second.
Miller's now 2 for 4 with a walk thrown in. Here's Mazzilli, who's 2 for 3 with a walk. And a ball to him. Mazzilli's a guy who has managerial aspirations. Spent a lot of time at the elbow of Chuck Tanner with the Pirates. Half a season with Jim Leland. He was very close to him when Maz was kind of an elder statesman on that Pirate club and not playing too much. Elia coming out.
He's going to make a double switch. He's going to take Gross out, who was the last hitter in the 7th. He's got Tekulve, who ran down to the bullpen about 2 innings ago, and Jeff Calhoun, the left-hander, still throwing. I would think they'll make Mazzilli turn around to the right side. We'll see.
That's a left-handed batter, Keith Hughes, who's going in the game. So Hughes is going to hit in the pitcher spot, and he'll be the second man up in the 8th inning. And Jackson will leave in favor of Tekulve. He's the guy grabbing his jacket and coming in as Calhoun continues to throw in the bullpen. Jackson had good stuff. He leaves, so do we. What's this? The fanatic contemplating suicide? He was out on that ledge for a while.
Like one of the flying Walendas on this ledge right here.
While we were away, here's the fanatic taunting us. I could take no more.
You threw all your ad-libs over the side. Kent Tekulve coming on, doesn't think it's too funny. And the man on, down by 3.
Oh.
Oh, man.
And now they're going to walk Mazzilli. A lot of people ask about this. Why have a reliever come into the game, and the first thing he does is either initiate or complete an intentional walk? One possible reason is that when you bring a new pitcher in, he must face at least one hitter.
Right.
So if you had the preceding pitcher, even though you intended to take him out, walk the guy first, thinking, well, I'm not going to mess up the new pitcher's groove, then you lose the option of changing pitchers if the opposing manager goes to a pinch hitter.
That is not only one reason, it is the most important reason.
Which the other
really
reason
overrides the fact that you say, well, gee, bring a new pitcher in and make him throw 4 balls. That gets his control off balance. That could be a possible detriment to doing it that way, but the other way sure has more value and sense in doing what you just said. So you were right on the ball.
All right, thank you. So it's Carter. And Tekulve works to him. Ball 1, low and outside. Miller, who doubled, is at second. Mazzilli, who got the intentional walk, is at first. And with Hayes playing behind him, it's a very generous lead for Mazzilli.
Unless Williams got in the ball game today for Cincinnati, well, Tekulve now holds the lead all by himself for appearances. This is his 40th appearances in the National League.
Of course, he's not the ace out of the bullpen. That designation goes to Bedrosian, who got the save last night. His 11th in a row. That ties Sparky Lyle's Major League record, set for the Yankees in 1973. Now, that's not 11 in 11 consecutive save opportunities. That's in 11 consecutive appearances, regardless of the circumstances.
You know, to add to what Bedrosian has done, Bedrosian in his last 18 games has 17 saves and 1 win. I think Cody Michael, the new baby, a few days old, is going to appreciate that someday when he looks in the record book. Tekulve's still tough with that sweeping curveball like Leach's and that sinker ball that goes down and runs it on your fist. Tough on right-handers. Left-handers have been given a lot of trouble the last few years.
Carter hits the 2-1 pitch into shallow right.
Tough son.
Wilson battles it and makes the catch. So the Mets leave a couple. Leach still has a 3-run lead to work with as we go to the last of the 8th. Gary Carter, who flied out to right to end the top half of the 8th, is now 7 for his last 50 with men in scoring position. And when you've had 4 100 RBI seasons, you don't expect to fail that often with a chance to drive people home. The Mets have scored 5 runs today, but they've left 11 men on base, so they've had some chances to blow the Phils out of the water, and they haven't done it.
Terry Leach has made it a little bit easier for Gary Carter and the Mets with this outstanding pitching performance. He's only thrown 84 pitches, as we told you earlier, never been beyond 14 pitches in 1 inning. With his delivery, there's no reason where that shoulder's going to get tired. And he's able to go out and have a little laugh right in the midst of a ball game as the Mets are trying to overtake the Cardinals.
Here's the word on Candy Maldonado. Marv Albert gave you the update a while ago that he'd fractured the ring finger on his right hand out at Candlestick today. He goes on the 21-day disabled list, but they say he'll be out longer than that, maybe as long as 6 weeks. Ball 1 inside to Aguayo. So a terrible blow for the Giants. Maldonado was almost certain to make the All-Star team, at least as a reserve. Now he won't be available on July 14th in Oakland. 1-1.
With Hughes inserted into the lineup on the double switch, there is no left-handed pinch hitter left on the bench to pinch hit for Luis Aguayo. And Aguayo's hit the ball pretty well this year. This would be a situation to try and put a left-hander if he had him. But Gross is in the game. He was in the game. He's gone. So you've got Shue, Parrish, Dowell, and Chris James, who looks like he's going to be the regular left fielder. Didn't play today because of Leach and that sidearm delivery.
This one is popped back. Carter for a look, but it's out of play. Working in the booth with us today, as always, Steve Horn, and assisting him, as is the case each time we come to Philadelphia, Bill Friel. And Bill's mom, Agnes Friel of Norristown, Pennsylvania, is celebrating her 88th birthday today. Bill tells us that his mom watches us every Saturday. The intestinal fortitude that requires at the age of 88 is not to be underestimated. Aguayo pops to Keith Miller.
Hang in there, Aggie. It'll be over in a little while.
Let's go to Marvin, New York.
All right, Bob, and the big story today in baseball, Oakland rookie Mark McGwire connecting for 3 homers against Cleveland. This is second of the game. Tremendous straightaway shot. He now is 25, 1 behind Major League leader George Bell, on track to break the rookie record of 38. The A's over the Indians, 13-3. Back to Bob and Tony.
Thanks, Marv. And here's Keith Hughes, second tour of duty with the Phils.
And that's something. McGwire wasn't even supposed to make that team coming out of spring training. Rob Nelson was supposed to be the first baseman, and then they've talked about platooning the two at first base, and all of a sudden he's shooting at a Rookie of the Year title and a home run title, possibly.
Isn't Mark McGwire's dad the dentist who once had Tommy John as one of his patients?
Yep. McGwire hit a home run off TJ already.
So John's been drilled by 2 generations of McGwires. Here's a roller to second. Miller back on what would be the outfield grass. Throws Hughes out.
Sometimes your humor is like sitting through a root canal surgery. Leach is getting the ball on the ground now. He has been outstanding. I mean, he's got, since you go back to the base hit by Darren Dalton in the 4th, he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Air on Schmidt, that was a ground ball. That'd be 6. Wilson, Gross, 7, 8 ground balls, and now another one. So he is really throwing the grounders. Early on, they were getting the ball in the air on him. Von Hayes jolted the home run in the 1st.
This one's tapped foul past Jim Davenport, former Giant third baseman and Giant manager prior to Roger Craig.
Well,
he
what
played
a glove
against you and against the Yankees in '62 in the World Series.
What a great glove. I mean, they talk about Brooks and Greg Nettles and Cleet Boyer. Davenport could feel with anybody. And he had a little pop. Played on some great Giant teams, didn't he? Woo.
2-strike pitch to Samuel, and he's gone swinging. In the last 4 innings, the only Philly to reach base off Leach, Schmidt, and he got on an error. Since the Phillies got their second run in the 4th inning, Leach has retired 13 of 14 hitters he's faced, and the only man to reach, Schmidt, who got aboard on Howard Johnson's error to start the 7th. And he's done it with great economy. As you see, he's thrown only 94 pitches.
Well, we talked about the Phillies. Mets don't have an off day till the All-Star break either. These are the things that save your bullpen. When you get into this kind of stretch, playing 20 games in 20 days or whatever it is, you can burn your bullpen out in a hurry.
Strawberry swings on the first one. He's going to wear a collar today. He's 0 for 4 with a sacrifice fly thrown in.
Bill Robinson, you saw the little pat there. He's been somewhat of a mentor to Darryl Strawberry, not just as far as hitting style. Jimmy Fry, who was the Cubs manager and before that a Mets coach, really helped him with the mechanics. Bill's talked to him more to settle him down. Bill is his disposition has got such great equilibrium. I think that's one of the qualities they feel will make him a good manager. Very steady.
On 2 pitches, 2 outs in the top half of the 9th as Wilson makes the catch to retire McReynolds. As we've mentioned several times, the Mets have an important series against the Cardinals at Shea Stadium, 3 games Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. If they hang close, the schedule favors them after the All-Star break. Post All-Star break, the Mets have 44 home games, 32 away. They have more games at home than any team in the National League East. Cardinals have 36 at home, 39 away in the second half. Strike 1 to Howard Johnson. The Cubs, who have played very well on the road, by the way, but still the Cubs have to play 42 on the road and just 32 at Wrigley in the second half. Grounded foul.
And before today's ball game, and I know the Mets have been hurt, so the things could change as they get to the last few months, but the Mets were 21-14 at home and 17 wins, 19 losses on the road. It's before today. I mean, last year didn't make any difference. Artificial surface, home, road, night, day, they dominated everybody.
1-2. Looks like the Phillies, unless they should rally and send it into extra innings, won't have any occasion to use Bedrosian. And despite the excellent work Bedrosian has done, He's certainly not overworked. He's appeared just 4 times in their last 14 games. All 4 of them victories. Tekulve does his job. Wilson's going to make the catch. And so, coming up for their last licks, it'll be Thompson, Hayes, and Schmidt. They need 3. As we go to the last of the 9th, Mazzilli leaves and Hernandez comes in for defense. And Terry Leach is finished after 8 innings of excellent work, and Jesse Orozco will be asked to cap it off for him. Thompson and Hayes scheduled as the first 2 hitters. And then after Schmidt, Dalton, another left-handed batter. So with that in mind, Johnson goes to Orozco. And Elia counters by sending Chris James up to pinch hit. So there's Leach, hoping that Orozco can finish it. Dave Magadan, the young third baseman, sitting alongside him. And if Orozco closes the door here, Leach goes to 6-0. Chris James batting for Milt Thompson, who was 1 for 3 while he was in there.
Chris 2 for 4 as a pinch hitter, hitting at 282. He's got some pop coming off the broken ankle last year. Battled his way back through the minor leagues. I said earlier, plans are for him to be the regular left fielder until he loses the job. Team that has struggled against left-handed pitchers, the Phillies. You would think with all the right-handed power, they'd tear left-handers up, but they haven't.
They did beat a lefty last night, and a good one in Sid Fernandez behind the combined efforts of Kevin Gross and Steve Bedrosian.
Decisions against left-handers, the Phillies are 6 wins, 15 losses. That's with Wilson and Schmidt and Parrish and James. It just goes on and on. They have trouble with it.
2-0 now. Speaking of Parrish, if they get to Dalton's spot in the order and Orozco is still in there, almost certainly we'll see Lance as a pinch hitter. Orozco on the mound to clinch the playoffs and the series a year ago for the Mets. 2-1.
They flew the champagne down here last year, and Mets fans came, and by the tens of thousands were in the ballpark, and they couldn't close the pennant against John Felske's Phillies, nor could they do it in St. Louis against the Cardinals.
Here's a long smash, and this one is gone by plenty. It lands in the second deck.
Wow. Did you hear that explosion?
Talk about a rocket. Watch him light Orozco up on this one, and it lands in the mezzanine section, just shy of the upper deck.
This home run and the 1987 version of the Major League Baseball brought to you by Werner von Braun. What? You talk about a rocket?
Tell you what, forget about a lively ball. The way he hit that, it would have gone out if it had been a bowling ball.
It had nice sound to it, didn't it, in this completely enclosed ballpark?
So Elia wins that little chess match with Johnson as he yanked Thompson back and sent up James. Here's Hayes, and he takes a strike. 5-3. Hayes had a homer back in the first off Leach. 0-2.
Orozco's ERA, almost 5. He leads the club in saves with 11, but the ERA is a little bit deceiving because he's only had 30 innings pitched coming in, and the first 2 home runs off before the Jays were both grand slams by Herr and Rain, so that really inflated his ERA. He's really thrown the ball well. He's striking out more than 1 per inning pitch. In fact, 37 and 30 innings. So he's throwing it well. He's getting a little help now from Randy Meyer from the left side. He's starting to throw some strikes.
But he's also given up now 36 hits in 30 innings.
Yeah, that's too high.
Got a 1-5 record to go with the 11 saves. Breaking ball is hit foul, and it will make the seats. Hernandez isn't sure, but it's well in there.
You know, the Phillies could be in a very close ball game. This is close now, but they could have a lead except for some plays that weren't made at third base. Maybe a couple of decisions with the bat. He pulls off this ball, Von Hayes. You can see the hips fly. He was fooled by the breaking ball, and he's saying, get out of here.
Hayes has grounded out twice since his first inning homer. Trying to get aboard and make Schmidt the tying run at the plate against a left-hander. Of course, McDowell is getting ready, too. That just missed.
And if you can use this as a reference point, there's Roger McDowell. He didn't give up any runs over the last 8 or 9 innings that he's come in. But looking from center field, Von Hayes against the right-hander, whose stance was slightly closed. Against the left-hander, he pulls his right foot away from the plate so he can see the ball better from the left-hander's delivery.
And he pops it up. Santana. That's the first out.
You could hear Von Hayes' bat shatter all the way up here. Not when he made contact, but when he crashed it into the carpet. He had a high pitch to hit, it looked like. He may have felt he swung at a bad pitch, or he may have felt he should have hit it harder. Get yourself another piece of lumber.
If it was a bad pitch, it was because it was high, because Orozco didn't really jam him with it. It was out over the plate a little bit. All right, here's Schmitty. 0 for 3. Reached on an error his last time.
A reason why, even with the Phillies struggling off this last road trip, many of the 40,000 plus paid today won't leave. They stayed to see this guy hit.
A lot of talk about Schmidt possibly wanting to retire. He says he'd like to be a manager someday, but those close to the team think maybe 2 more years. And one reason is he's more comfortable with himself than ever. Even though he's been a great player for many years, he's never gotten his true due and the acclaim that he's deserved here in Philadelphia until the last few years. And now he'd like to bask in the glory a little bit and enjoy it.
Well, there was talk back in spring training, questions asked of Schmitty, will you play long enough to unquestionably be named the greatest third baseman of all time, and you might get 600 home runs with 2 more years? He thought about it, and since then he has said, I don't think I will, because my knees won't take it. He said he will not take a cut in pay if he comes back for 2 more years. He's making about $2 million a year.
3-0 now.
Yeah, he will be swinging if he wants to.
He has not been underrated, never underrated, but in his own town, I can't think of a more underappreciated superstar of our generation. Until recently. In there.
Well, there have been incidents where he's hit 2 home runs, and then the next time he strikes out and he gets booed. And he has learned to live with it. He hadn't liked it before he went on the DL. He blasted the organization, the clubhouse, and everything else. Later retracted. They had to talk to Mr. Giles about it.
A 3-1 pitch. In there.
I think it's interesting right here. Now, Schmitty, and I thought he'd be swinging. At 3-0, he could have been hacking at 2 pitches. He knows a home run makes the score just 5-4. He would rather see a walk force Orozco to pitch from a stretch or Davy Johnson to make a move, because Parrish is going to hit for Dalton if Orozco stays in the ballgame. I would think it's going to be Parrish. Or will it be Rick Shue?
And the payoff pitch. Breaking ball line, in there, base hit. Around first is Schmidt. On his way to second with a 1-out double.
Mike Schmidt showed me something. He could have hit for himself 3-0 on 2 pitches. He would have taken a walk. He got it even on Orozco, and he said, now I'll take you. That was a great piece of teammanship by Mike Schmidt. Teammanship a word?
I don't think
so. Nice teammanship, Mike. Well, it's not teamwork, but he was playing for the team. That's teammanship, and Lee Elia knows it. Rick Shue's going to hit. He's announced Davy Johnson's coming out. He's got Roger McDowell ready, the sinker ball right-hander.
Does this say something about the way Lance Parrish is struggling? That it's Shue rather than Parrish for Dalton?
Well, Rick Shue's had a hot bat. He's hitting very well over the last 25, 30 games he's been playing regularly. Orozco leads. Now Shue may sit down. We'll see. We'll be back.
In comes Roger McDowell with the great sinker ball. His numbers this year don't measure up to what he did a year ago, that's for sure. When he saved 22 and won 14 and had an ERA of 3.02 and might have been, all things considered, even with the excellent seasons, put together by Ojeda and Darling, and the 17 victories by Gooden, might have been the most valuable Met pitcher last year.
Well, he's got 8 saves in the 20 games he's appeared in since the DL. The last 6 relief appearances, he's unscored upon. Boy, that sinker just keeps dropping off the table. One time he was a one-pitch pitcher, just that hard sinker ball that he redeveloped when he had arm surgery. It happened where all of a sudden the ball started sinking more. He had to do something a little different. Mel Stottlemyre has given him a little bit of a slider that he throws on occasion.
Shue batting for Dalton. Shue has 5 homers in 98 at-bats and an overall batting average of .255. But he's 19 for his last 52, as you mentioned, Tony. That's .365, so he's hot of late. Fouls it back off Carter's mask. Leach came out after 8. The first man Orozco faced, Chris James, homered deep to left, a pinch hit home run. After Hayes popped out, Schmidt doubles on a 3-2 pitch that chases Orozco, and in comes McDowell.
You know, do little things about a baseball game thrill you like they do me. That's what Mike Schmidt just did to me. What he showed me right there, 3-0 and then getting a base hit.
This will be playable for Strawberry and Wright. And the Phils are down to their last out. The Major League Baseball Game of the Week has been brought to you by Miller Lite. For great taste, there's only one light beer. By Yugo. Buy yourself a little freedom and see how good it feels to have your own set of wheels. By AT&T, the right choice. And by Quaker State Motor Oil. When car-caring people reach for the best, they reach for Quaker State Motor Oil.
And if Wilson keeps something going, the man we were looking for in the bullpen and down on the benches in the on-deck circle, he apparently was on his way underneath the stands. Wondering where his bat is. Well, he'll be in the batter's box if Wilson can keep something going.
It breaks down about like this for the Phillies. If you don't see Bedrosian, you're not likely to see the Phillies win. They've won 31 games this year, and Bedrosian has been involved in 21 of those victories. They've lost 10 of their last 14. All 4 victories saved by Bedrosian.
Here's a guy in April struggled so badly, bedrock, that they sat him down for a while, worked on mechanics, got him a little sinking fastball and did some refinements, and he's just blazing.
Fouled off by Wilson, and certainly Bedrock is well rested because the Phillies have had so few leads late in games. They haven't had to call on him. Just 4 appearances in their last 14 outings. A run home in the 9th to cut the Met lead to 5-3. Schmidt at second, 2 out. Wilson the tying run at the plate. 1-1 the count to him. McDowell looking for the save. 2-1.
And as a hitter, you'd love to see a Roger McDowell get the ball about mid-thigh high, but rarely does he do that. Perhaps did coming off the hernia surgery when he left spring training. It was a very bad one. Pitched with it all last year, didn't bother him. And he was out of kilter when he first came back, but now everything he throws is just like last year. Knees down to the ankles, and you can't make him get the ball up.
Wilson has reached the seats 10 times.
Look at that, even 2 balls and 1 strike. That baby just keeps on sinking. He buries a catcher's glove hand with that hard sinker.
You can hear the sizable number of Met fans at the Vet.
I think a lot of those, and we're seeing Met fans right there, are Phillies fans looking for Wilson to take him deep and tie it up, but that'll be tough to do off this guy. What a defensive swing. That's all Wilson is doing. His ball is moving so much, Wilson just saying, let me just put it in play. McDowell also an outstanding fielder. A lot of sinker, but in fact most sinker ballers and knuckleballers are. So many balls hit back at him.
McDowell looking to lock up win number 6 against no losses for Leach. Give himself his 9th save. 2-2 pitch to Wilson.
Oh, he got one up.
Base hit. Schmidt being waved home. Strawberry won't make a play to the plate. It's 5-4.
Glenn Wilson did get a sinker ball up about belt high, and he rifled it through the right side. First pitch that Rogers gotten up that was handled, able to be handled by any hitter so far.
The Phillies had 4 hits off Leach through 8. They've got 3 hits here in the 9th against Orozco and McDowell. And up comes Parrish, who frankly admits he's uncomfortable at the plate, hasn't gotten used to the new assortment of pitchers he's had to face in the National League. He takes a strike, and in a way, even last night, where he hit his 7th home run, was indicative of the kind of year it's been for him. He stumbled and nearly fell on his face as he crossed home plate. Came up with a big grin. Eventually, he's going to get comfortable and do heavy damage, 1-1.
He's grounding into a lot of double plays when he's starting ball games, striking out quite a bit. People forget, and they don't have much patience here in Philadelphia, nor do many fans, but he missed the last couple of months last year with a back problem, then the lengthy holdout and the threats of litigation and all the pressures. But it is almost July, and he still doesn't have his feet on the ground.
Again, McDowell is a strike away from closing it out. For that man, Terry Leach.
He can afford to throw one down now right at the ankles and hope that Parrish will go after it. And with that sinker, you'll get a lot of people swinging grounders. Got it up.
Here's a bouncer up the middle. Miller from behind second. Parrish doesn't run well, and that does it.
Parrish had a hittable pitch. The ball was up just like it was to Wilson. What a job by Leach. He goes 6-0 now, Bobby. And boy, with all the troubles, I mean, you said it again, and right at the beginning, he's been a godsend for Mel Stottlemyre and Davy Johnson of the Mets.
The bullpen gave 2 runs back, but McDowell is able to hold on. And today's NBC Miller Lite Player of the Game is Terry Leach. Miller Lite is happy to present a check for $1,000 in his name to the National Multiple Sclerosis Society.
Phillies did a great job of scrapping, though, didn't they? Right till the end.
Left the tying run aboard, and they lose it 5-4, and we'll come back after these messages from your local station.